Before we start creating samples, let's get set up properly. First, grab the installer from the Sync Audio website. Once it's downloaded, run it just like you would for any other plugin. I highly recommend selecting the VST3 format during install. Once Fractiv is installed, open FL Studio, go to Options, Manage Plugins, and hit Find Plugins. Now Fractiv is successfully installed. Now before we open it up, there's a crucial distinction. You can actually load Fractiv in two different ways. First, you can load it as an instrument in the channel rack. This lets you play samples chromatically across your keyboard, just like any standard synth. However, for resampling workflows, the routing can get a little complex. That is why for this video, we are loading it as an effect in the mixer. This allows us to route live audio, vocals, guitars, or any other synth directly into the buffer. This unlocks the real power of live resampling. Now, at first glance, this interface might look a bit overwhelming, but it's actually really intuitive once you break it down into 5 simple sections. 1. The XY pad. This is your playground. It visualizes the audio buffer. Moving around here changes the time position of the sample and the tightness of the grains. This is where 90% of the performance happens. 2. The modulation engine. This controls the movement. Instead of drawing automation clips, you use these LFOs or low-frequency oscillators to automatically twist and turn knobs for you. 3. Volume envelope. This is your standard ADSR. This shapes the grains, controlling whether they hit hard and punchy or fade in smoothly like a pad. 4. The effects and shaping panel. This is where the flavor comes from. You have pitch shifting, form controls for vocals, and vary speed for those tape stop effects, and a separate window to control the spread and offset for each specific grain, and a decimate knob which acts similar to a bit crusher. And finally, 5. Playback control. This decides the direction of the audio. Forward, reverse, or ping-pong loop modes. Now, understanding these 5 boxes pretty much unlocks the whole plugin. Now that we know the layout, let's make it move. Sure, you could just sit there and draw automation clips for every single knob, but that feels robotic. Granular textures are organic. They thrive on chaos and human imperfection. So let's hook up a controller. First, we need to make sure FL Studio is actually listening. To do this, go to Options and then MIDI settings. Here you have to select your input device. In my case, the Arturia Mini Lab 3. After you've selected your device, you have to click this Enable button. If you don't, nothing will work. So now, if you move a knob or fader on your MIDI device, you can see this light blink green in the top panel. This means FL Studio is receiving MIDI information. Now back in Fractiv, if you right-click any knob like Vary Speed and select MIDI Learn and try moving a knob on your MIDI controller, nothing happens yet. We still need to tell FL Studio where to send the MIDI signal. To do this, go to the Plugin Options menu. It's the cog icon in the Fruity wrapper. Click on the Settings tab and find the Input Port section. Make sure that this port number matches the port your MIDI controller is assigned to in FL Studio's MIDI settings. Once those match, go back to Fractiv, right-click any knob, select MIDI Learn, and then move it. And now they're linked. That's it. Now you can perform Fractiv in real time. But what if you don't have a MIDI controller? Well, you have a phone. For FL Studio, you could use ImageLine Remote, which pretty much turns your phone into a wireless MIDI device. You can map your X and Y axis to Fractiv, and suddenly you aren't just programming a plugin, you're performing an instrument, which is really fun. But okay, we've installed Fractiv, we understand the interface, and we've got a controller hooked up. So now let's get to why you're actually here, creating infinite samples. Which sounds kind of crazy, but here's the idea. Fractiv is amazing for creating textures in real time, but eventually you're going to want to keep what you make. That's where Edison comes in. Instead of bouncing audio to disk or rendering stems, you can just record directly into Edison while you perform, so that every twist of the XY pad, every pitch shift, every weird grain texture, it's all captured so that you can mess around with that audio later and create new sounds. Let me show you how to set it up. First, we need audio flowing into Fractiv, so drop any sample into the channel rack or playlist. Could be a vocal, or drum loop, whatever you want to mangle. I'm going to go ahead with the drum loop. Now, we need to route that channel to a dedicated mixer track. Now, on that mixer track, load Fractiv as an effect. You should see your audio waveform appear in the buffer when you hit play. Here's where Edison enters. On the same mixer track after Fractiv in the effect chain, load Edison. An easier way to do this is to press Ctrl+E. Now this means Edison is listening to whatever comes out of Fractiv, not the dry signal. So whatever chaos you create in Fractiv, Edison will capture it. Now all you gotta do is hit record and have fun in Fractiv. And when you're done, hit stop. You've now got a raw recording of your entire performance inside Edison. This is where it gets powerful. Drag this recording into the playlist or channel rack, and then scrub through it. Find those moments, those happy accidents where the textures just worked. Chop them out, isolate the hits, the glitches, the weird rhythms that caught your ear. And here's the thing, you can rearrange these into something completely new. So I started with a drum loop, but after running it through Fractiv and chopping up the results, I've got a completely different drum loop. Same source material, totally new rhythm. One sample goes in, a whole new pattern comes out. That's the infinite sample generator. So how do you actually use this in a track? How do you put this into context? Well, let me show you. I've got this R&B beat here that could use some glitchy textures and vocal stutters to fill it out. Now for this example, I'm actually going to load Fractiv as an instrument in the channel rack instead. This way I can play notes directly without having to set up MIDI routing. But either method works. It's just personal preference. So I found this vocal phrase here. Time. Now I want to use this to capture some variations, layer them, and see what we can build. I'll drop this into Fractiv, route it to the mixer, and just start playing around. But first, for the sake of comparison, here's the beat before any Fractiv layers. Pretty basic. Now let me capture some variations and layer them in. Okay, that's cool. We can use Fractiv to throw down a melody. You know what? Just to make it weirder, we can take this lead melody we just made with Fractiv in the channel rack and route it to another instance of Fractiv on the mixer track. Let's see what happens. I think I'm going to take this whole thing and mangle it. Maybe make some stuttery vocal chop. The hell? That sounds so cool. Now what we can do is open Fractiv again and you know what? Let's drag the original vocal sample in here too. Why not? But actually with this preset, we can make it a pad. Okay, so we've added a few new layers with Fractiv. We've created this big crushed vocal melody. We took that same vocal sample and turned it into an ambience. And we've also got these odd but groovy rhythmic vocal chops, which are mangled through Fractiv. And finally, there's the simple big crushed vocal one-shot hitting every beat, just adding some texture. And they all just work. Here are the drums. Here's the bass. Now all of it together. And that's it. Fractiv plus Edison. One sample in, endless variations out. If you want to try Fractiv for yourself, head over to syncaudio.io and grab the download. Thanks for watching.